see you guys. Hi. Good morning. Welcome. Hi. I know some of you are watching live and some are in the replay. So welcome. And I wanted to make sure that you saw that there's a PDF for you to download that I will be going through during our time together. It's in the chat. It's just a link if you don't have it yet, but we're referencing this. And mine's printed out. You can just look at yours on the screen if you want. You don't have to print it out. I need to hold it myself. I'm very tactile, but you can certainly just reference it on the screen. I'm going to guide you through some things. And I hope you've been having an amazing time with this whole workshop experience. It's been incredible. Inspiration, creativity, all these things. I hope they're coming alive in you. And in this workshop, of course, we're now going to apply your creativity to your astrology chart. And so if you haven't already done so, you would want to know two basics in your chart, because there's people here with different levels of understanding of astrology, right? So in addition to downloading the PDF, you'd want to know your astrology chart, and you can get that for free as well. And so feel free to, if you're watching the replay, press pause and come back. Or if you're here live, you're going to want to find your sun sign and your Venus sign. And we're going to talk about those two planets in your chart. Okay. So again, astrology has so many layers, we can go so deep into it, but we're going to start with the sun and Venus and then go deeper into it. And we're going to get more specific about your energy in your chart. So that's really what we're covering. Okay. Now, one of the ways that I was, just so thrilled that I could talk about this is because, we are innate creative beings. Like, we are designed to keep growing and flourishing and to keep creating. Even our bodies, physically, our bodies reproduce at a cellular level every 7 years. Every 7 years, you have all new cells in your body because we're designed to keep growing and to keep developing with new energies, new expressions. And all of this is because we're deeply creative beings. And as we go out into the world, typically we look for that definition of creativity and it can start to shrink. What you understand about your creative self can start to shrink over time because we go into the programming of the world. We go into what we think it means to be creative. Even when you're growing up, right? If you have siblings, maybe you were told that so-and-so is the creative one, so-and-so is the athletic one, so-and-so is the smart one, right? There's those labels. But each of us is deeply, deeply creative. We are meant to create, and this is going to help you connect to more of your pure essence. Your pure essence of creativity that's not about anyone else. No one else matters, just you, no one else. Like, this is about the creative energy that you came in with, that you physically embody. All right. So I wanted to start with that understanding because we have so many different creative expressions. And, when I was preparing for this workshop, I was thinking about all these different directions we could go with it. And so you could think of your creative hobbies, right? Whether that's, photography, dance, music, art, writing. And every astrological sign has connections to each of those creative outlets. So when you take photography, any astrology sign can be connected to photography, for example. It's not like it's just one astrological sign or planet that, dominates that expression. So we're going to open this up to ensure that what you are drawn to, like what speaks to you, what gives you life, your own creative muse is opening at this time. And that's really one of my intentions with this workshop, to open you up beyond the programming that maybe you've received, or even those limitations, because we can put limitations on our creativity, even around, oh, is it good enough? Are people going to like it? Does this, am I doing this right? All of that can come up. But what we're doing here is we're going into these innate energies in your chart. And I'd like you to, this is just an invitation to stay open to whatever comes up for you. So you will probably want to write some things down. We're going to do a few visualizations, okay? We're going to get to those where I'm going to have you close your eyes and just trust what comes through for you, and then we'll write it out. So you will want to have pen and paper. You will want to be able to reference some things that you're feeling or sensing, okay? So also, I know some of you are just coming in, so make sure that you get this PDF, okay? And make sure that you have it at least to reference if you want to see what we're going to be looking at, okay? So when we look at your astrology chart, we're looking at that moment in time that your soul took a body, and your astrology chart is that energetic imprint of when you came through and you have arrived as a physical vessel, and those are the energies that are embedded within your chart that you are embodying in this lifetime. And these are energies that can always grow, that can always consciously grow and develop throughout your whole life. So even though your astrology chart shows you where the planets are at that time of your birth, they can still be evolving with consciousness, with new energy, new awakenings, all of it, okay? So it's still very alive, and this is important. Now, most people come to astrology because of your sun sign, right? Like you learn about your sun sign first. You're like, oh, I'm sun in Virgo, sun in Aquarius, whatever it might be. And that's often how people enter into astrology. And as we learn about our sun sign, we start to develop things and see ourselves in a new way. I mean, things can connect and click, and you'd be like, oh, yes, that is true for me. Yes, that is very much who I am. There can also be some things that differentiate as you grow up, meaning there can be parts of yourself that you look at and you're like, oh, yeah, I did that a lot when I was younger, or I now use my energy differently. So what we're going to do first is talk about your sun sign, okay? And I'm going to guess that, again, most of you know your sun sign and you're aware of what your sun sign is. I also want to let you know, quick side note, I'm not looking at the chat right now. Ainsley will be looking at that. So I'm focused on teaching. So I just want you to know that if you're saying anything in the chat and I'm not responding, it's because I'm focusing on this first, and then we'll do the chat, okay? So just so you know, I'm not ignoring you. I'm not ignoring anybody in the chat. Okay, so your sun sign is your brightest light. It's what you're here to literally embody, experience. Your sun sign is actually an energy that's always pulsing, vibrating, growing, and it's how you're learning about yourself throughout your life. And so it's not static unless you choose to remain so, but it's an energy, it's your life force. It's your life force that's always moving through you, that wants you to know more about yourself and understand who you are. It's your brightest light. It's where you're developing confidence and the courage to be seen. The courage to be seen is your sun sign. And this is very important when we talk about your creative self, when we talk about your self-expression, what you allow other people to see in you, what you want people to see in you. And that, of course, is very different depending on where your sun sign is located in your chart, as well as what that sun sign is. So what you want to identify is not only your sun sign, but the house placement that your sun is in, okay? And that is, let me see here, if you have the PDF, right? Like these are the houses. And so it's identifying where your sun is by house. And that's where your sun naturally shines, where it exudes its energy in the most easy, natural way. And this is why if your sun is in the second house, that's different than if your sun is in the 7th house or the 11th house. So the house placement is important, and we're going to get to more about that in this workshop. But I want you to identify what your sun sign is and the house that it's located in. All right. And what we're going to do is, because your sun sign is, again, your sense of self in this lifetime, your self-awareness, your self-identity, what feels right for you, what feels good for you, we're going to do a visualization that's going to help you remove any limitations, any blocks, any things that have been shut down on your sun sign, anything that has like intruded upon your natural creative essence. And before we do this, you could determine for yourself, like just trust if something's coming up for you here. If there's a particular area around your self-expression that feels weak, stagnant, like it doesn't feel like you have enough life force in it, if there's something that you want to do, right? You want to write a book, you want to do more with your art, you want to take something to the next level. You know, there's a part of you that you can feel that's part of who you are. But if you have any kinds of limitations, blocks, any belief systems that shut down that self-expression, that's something we're going to energetically reprogram in this brief visualization that I'm going to guide you through, okay? Because so much of this time on the planet is about expanding our light, opening up, right, to even more that you're here to do, like what you're uniquely designed to experience in this lifetime, and to honor that, to keep going with that, give that life and make that creative life force something that you're always connected to. So just take a minute here. I'm going to give you, a good 30 seconds, 60 seconds. If anything is coming to mind, write down any kinds of limitations, blocks, things that you don't feel as confident in. Maybe it's something that, you were really good at when you were younger and you let it go. Maybe it's something that you've always enjoyed and life got busy. You're like, I don't have time for this, or I wish I could take this kind of class, but I don't know where to fit it in. Anything that's connected to your creative nature, anything that you're feeling that you want to own it more, just bring that into your conscious awareness now. We're like inviting that in. Okay, we're inviting that in so that you can work with it and see it. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a pause here to do that while I take a drink of water, and then we're going to go on to the next part of this exercise. I mean, this could even be something that you realize, in a previous workshop, right? During this gathering of the creatives experience. This could be something that's kind of been like way over here and you want to bring it front and center. So again, just trust it. And if you don't have anything coming to mind, that's fine too. Don't force it, but understand that what we're going to do is a visualization here where I'd like you to just get comfortable, just relax into where you're at. And we're going to actually focus on the solar plexus chakra that is right there in your belly, and it's about your life force, your sense of power, your sense of self, because that's the chakra connected to your sun sign. And so you're invited to close your eyes, which will help with dropping into that part of your energy field, like just dropping in to whatever you're seeing around that. And I'm just going to ask you to trust whatever you're seeing, whatever comes up, okay? Because what you want to focus on, first of all, is seeing this part of your energy as a very vibrant, bright, pulsing yellow sun that's in that solar plexus. Okay, so you're just visualizing that. And as you're visualizing it, you could start to feel that there's certain parts of the energy that maybe feel weaker or milder. Whatever you're sensing around this part of your energy, whatever is coming up for you, just trust that. because this is your sun sign speaking to you energetically right now. And just trust whatever you're feeling, trust whatever you're seeing. You know, don't question it, just allow it. This is very welcoming energy. We're just welcoming in all parts of yourself. We're welcoming in more of what you're ready to understand about your energies, capabilities, and talents. And what we're going to do, now that you have like a nice visualization of the bright, vivid yellow, maybe it looks like a gold or a lemon or something very beautiful in its essence. What we're going to visualize now is an unraveling of ribbons. Okay? So I see it starting at the top, but trust wherever you see this energy. We're going to unravel visually anything that has restricted, limited, or held back your sense of self. And this can be a really soft unraveling. It's very gentle. It's just a release. It's unraveling any messages you've received around your creativity, any messages you've received around what you're good at, what you're capable of. It's an unraveling of the programming, anything that has kept you energetically bound, anything that has limited your creativity, anything that has held you back from knowing yourself, knowing all of your energy. So we're just visualizing this gentle unraveling. Could look like a ribbon, a cord, anything unraveling from that solar plexus, from that sun sign energy that has held you back from what you're good at, what you're capable of. You could even feel an age come up, like, oh, this has been here since I was 6 or 17, 28. Like you could feel something attached to what's coming unwound. Okay, so it's a very gentle unraveling, unwinding, and it's meant to release anything within you that has limited who you are. So I'm just going to give you a few seconds here to sit with this and allow this unraveling to gently occur. Anything you were told, any messages you were given, any external judgments or assessments, all of that is coming off. It's just coming off. Ooh, I can feel it too, by the way. Okay, and then when you're ready, just come back into your conscious awareness with your, open your eyes, perhaps, you know, feel back into things and write down anything that you feel is important to you. I'm going to give you a few moments to write it down because this is important for a few reasons. So just jot down any messages that came up, any lower messages, unconscious programming, judgments, beliefs, all of it. I'll give you another 30 seconds or so. Okay. So what we're intentionally doing collectively, whether you're watching this live or through the replay, is we're removing this programming that has been unconsciously in your energy field that has limited your self-expression in some capacity. And we're opening up the energy, and it's almost like we're opening up your sun sign to be brighter, clearer, and purer. Because what we can do, what we can consciously work with energetically, is returning these parts of yourself to the purest expression of who you're meant to be, without these, again, external messages coming in and dampening that, darkening it, taking away any of your light. So we want to return to that feeling of your pure essence, because think about how the sun is warmth, it's light, right? It brings so much literally onto the planet, and that's how you are supported. So now that we have done the unraveling, what I would like you to do, and again, this is something where you can either close your eyes or keep it open, whatever you prefer, is because we've just opened up space in your energy. We've removed and gotten rid of some of these things. We want to now call in very pure, high vibrating light that then takes the place of what we removed. So I tend to see it as a very bright white light, but you could see it as any color, anything that supports you. And it's about visualizing that energy coming into the solar plexus, which is your sun sign, and infusing this with more pure essence, pure energy. Because what we want to do here is we're transforming anything that's been held back, and we're bursting open these parts of ourselves that need attention, that need care, that need support. And so much of being creative, right, of being artistic, of being yourself in the world, is that it can feel very lonely at times. It can feel unsupported. It can feel like, who sees me, who gets this, who's on the same wavelength. But what you're doing is you're actually opening up to greater universal support for who you are. And this is going to give you that sense of what you can do and enjoy. So the other thing we want to be aware of, and this is going to take ongoing work, is where you start to evaluate yourself or criticize yourself or create judgment, or where those messages start to creep back in, right? When you start to do something, you're like, oh, that's not good enough, or oh, I don't know if that is going to be well received. That's when your energy starts to go outside of itself, even looking for that validation, permission, anything from others. What we want is to fortify your sun sign with the strength and the pure essence that is your divine birthright, that is part of your creative life force, and to know that you can always return to this. You can always return to this part of your energy that is designed to be pure, but it takes management over, being our own worst critic or our own worst enemy about these things. And by the way, this applies to anything in your life. I mean, this can even, you could even feel or start to feel a change in your body physically. Like, you can fully own more of your style, or you could want a different hairdo, or try different earrings, or you could start to feel different in your own skin when you really allow this energy to go in and work with you, because it changes what you're embodying. So we're opening up to more of what your sun sign is capable of holding, especially as that pure essence, okay, that pure energy signature. So make sure that you're writing down now anything that feels really good, okay, anything that feels like supportive or strong. Is there anything within you that you're noticing? And if you don't notice it right now, that's fine. Maybe later on you start to feel something different in yourself, in your sense of self. But this is where, when we do energy work, it can take a little bit to feel it catch up with us, but some people feel it right away. So that's why it's quite personal. So what we're doing, like I said, is we're basically giving your sun sign more energy, more life force, pure, making it pure. And I had asked you to identify the house that your sun sign is in, right? So that's because what we're going to do now is in this PDF, there is a link in the chat for those who are just joining us, and it could be at the top. Oh yeah, okay. Ainsley put it in. So the PDF, you're going to go to, okay, you're going to go towards the back, this page. How your creativity speaks to you. Okay. Your sun sign is in a particular house, right? 3rd house, 5th house, 8th house, whatever. And that's the energy that feels like home for your sun sign. And when we focus in on your creativity, it's because that is how your creativity naturally speaks to you, speaks to your sun sign through that house placement. And so on the following pages, each of these, bullet points here, I know you can't see that, gives you insight into the energy of that house, but related to how creativity speaks to you. So for example, if your sun is in the 1st house, that's usually a fast moving gut energy, like you feel it in your body. And that's where you could feel something speaking to you creatively through your body, through what that means for you. Now, I realize there's a lot of bullet points here with these houses. And so you might want to come back and look at this in a little bit, when we're done with these active exercises. But this is how you can hone in on what fits for you most naturally. Okay? Where things can just feel easier for you. Like you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that just came to me, or that was just part of what I do. Because part of our own creativity can be what we take for granted, right? You're like, oh, but that's so easy for me. Oh, I didn't realize I'd be good at that. When we started this workshop, I talked about photography being something that, anyone can be drawn to. And when you have a really good creative eye, you might not validate that as much because you're like, oh, but this is who I am. Like I've always had a good eye for color or a good eye for dimensions and imagery. So this is important to know in yourself because it's how the creative energies speak to your sun sign. And you can forget or you can not be aware of it at times. So for example, my sun is in the 3rd house. And so if you have anything in the 3rd house, well, communication, learning, speaking, talking, typing, all of that can just be a part of who you've always been, right? If your sun is in the 7th house, it could be like partnerships. It could be things that someone else's energy gives you a spark of inspiration. So this is how to tap into your creativity, whatever that might be, okay? Because you're going to notice some things about your life that you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was part of who I am or my self-expression. So this is a different way, a little bit of a different way to look at the houses in the chart, okay? Because these are understanding, again, what feels natural. What feels natural. So your sun sign wants to express these energies. Your sun sign, again, it's going to feel normal and natural. And this is also where your sun sign is going to have a sense of, this is me. And that is something I'd like you to just, again, drop into in your body or hold that space for yourself. This can be private, doesn't have to be something anybody knows, but it's like your sun is connecting you to what is you, what is uniquely you. Okay. I'm going to look in the chat. Let's see the time here. So, Ainsley, I don't know if I'm throwing you off, but I was thinking that maybe we could do some questions about the sun sign before we move on to the next, so that we can kind of, okay.
Do you want me to read it to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So Tim Burkhardt asks, how do you know where the 1st house is?
The 1st house is going to be at the ascendant. And if you print out your chart, it often says like, 1st, 2nd, 3rd houses around the outside of the chart. Now, when everyone's astrology chart can look a little different because they're constructed differently depending on the software you use or the app or whatever. So the 1st house starts at the ascendant or rising, and then they go around like that. It's tricky because I can't see what you're looking at. So I'm trying to, you know, help you connect the dots. But the houses can be different sizes. There's different house systems. Oh, it just gets more complicated from here. So you want to look at the house that your sun is in. I hope that helps a little bit.
Okay, so Carolyn said, I know what my sun sign is, but I'm having confusion about how to figure out what house.
Okay, so if you're looking at your chart, right, and it looks like 12 pizza slices, and then it can say on the outside the house number. I mean, I guess this is hard because typically I would need to see someone's chart because then I could just tell you right away. Let's see. So you can also go to astro.com and it should say in your free reports, like your sun is in 11th house, your sun is in 10th house. So I guess this is a hard question for me to answer for everybody on the spot, but if you go to astro.com under free personal portraits, it will say your sun is in the X house, your moon is in the X house, your rising is blah, blah, blah.
Tim asked if he could hold up his chart. Would you mind if I shared the screen with him?
Sure. I just don't know if let me see if I can see his chart. Oh, hi.
Here, I'll unmute you. There you go.
Yeah, I'm using my computer. I'm not Tim, but I'm a little confused. So I don't know if you can see this. So from what I'm understanding, this is my first house, but there's several things in there. So what am I looking at?
Your sun is in the 4th house in the bottom.
And how do I know that?
The sun is this symbol.
Sure.
Here's your sun sign. Look for this image.
Okay. So
and then in the 4th house.
So it's a circle with a dot. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So sun is in the 4th house. Okay. And then what else are we supposed to be looking for?
Then we're going to look for Venus next. If any of you want to get a heads up on that, here's what Venus looks like.
All right.
I'm going
to mute myself now.
Okay.
Thank
you. This is the one we're going to look at next, everybody, is Venus. See her? Now, Mercury has the things at the top. It's not Mercury. So make sure it just has this cross and a circle. That's the glyph for Venus. We're going to do her next. But your sun is the circle with the dot. I'm sorry, I should have started with that. I guess I thought I should have started with that. So this is the sun.
I do have one more question about the sun if you'd like to get to that. Shelly's asking, what does it mean when your sun sign aligns with a location solar return? Is that a good creative place to write?
Well, every year your sun will be in the exact same place in the same degree, but if you're asking about the same house, then that would feel very natural and normal too.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're all caught up.
Okay. So that is what we've got for the sun. So again, it's about where your spark of life, where your natural essence wants to express itself and to fully own it, because that's part of the sun sign's energy. It's where you're meant to feel confident in who you are, what you're good at, and to make sure that you're giving yourself space in your life to exude that energy, to exude that part of who you are. So the sun sign is very important for this, okay? We're gonna move on to your Venus, okay? Now, Venus, there she is again. Venus is many things in a chart, and Venus is about how you feel good about who you are. And it's how you receive. It's how you receive compliments. It's how you receive the little things from people, even if they hold open the door for you or they want to buy you a coffee. You know, it's your ability to receive. Venus is connected to your sense of self-worth, like how you feel worthy of being in this world and receiving. She's about how we feel worthy of sharing our gifts. Again, of being able to say, like, this is me, this is what I'm about, this is where I'm here to demonstrate who I am. And so your Venus is very much about how you feel good about not only shining your light, like we talked about with the sun, but what that means to you in terms of how it fortifies your self-worth. Venus, a healthy Venus, also does not want comparison. It's not about who does something in a different way or who does something better. It's not about that. Venus gives you more of that confidence to stand on your own 2 feet and feel good about who you are on your own terms. So she's very much about our self-confidence, okay? Now she's also connected to feminine energies, just as Mars is connected to masculine energies, but she's about your own sense of, this is how I feel good being myself, and this is how I want to bring more pleasure into my life. So Venus is about your style, like your signature, anything like that's very you, anything about how you decorate your home, how you want things to be more peaceful or harmonious, you know, the kind of music you like. Venus is about also our 5 senses. So it's connected to what you see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and what you enjoy. And so connecting in to your natal Venus connects you to more of what makes you happy. And in fact, when people are having a hard day, I often say, go to your Venus. What does your Venus want? You know, maybe she just wants like a really good home cooked meal, or she wants like pretty sparkly jewelry, or she just wants a good book or something that feels good. So your Venus is part of how you find joy and pleasure in life. And when you understand her energy signature, it helps you to know what makes you feel good about who you are. Okay, so these are the bigger, like, overarching Venus energies. And then when we relate it to your self-expression, this is where, you know, it can be tricky. And I'm, you know, raise your hand if you can relate, where you're like, I don't know if I should share this with others, or I don't know if I want to put this out there, because that Venus energy is where we want to be validated and we want people to basically accept and see who we are. And there can be times when that's a bit rocky, right? Where you don't feel like, oh, this is what I want other people to see. It could be parts of yourself that you keep private. Parts of your, like if you do writing projects or poetry or something, right? And you're like, oh, I don't want anybody to read this. I don't want anybody to ever read this. Maybe it's because you're afraid of the energy you're going to receive back. This can be especially true if you're an empath, if you're highly sensitive, if you're very energetically aware and sensitive, where you're aware of the energy coming back. And that can kind of shut down what you share or what other people see or acknowledge in you. So this can be related to your Venus as well. But ultimately, your Venus is where you are investing in yourself. And so much of what we are, you know, what we create and share and what matters to us is about how we've invested in a part of our own energy. So think of it as your Venus is a direct gateway to the priority and importance you put on investing in who you are, in your confidence in yourself and your abilities, and of course, you know, in your creativity, in your self-expression, and what matters to you. So I'm thinking 2 things. First of all, if anything's coming to mind around this, please jot it down. We're going to do a visualization here on Venus in a few moments. But this is where we can have blocks to investing in ourselves and investing in what matters to us, what we enjoy, what brings us pleasure. We can have things that shut us down. You know, it's kind of like, oh, I don't want to make time for that, or I don't know if I can make time for that. I have to take care of the kids, or I need to do this, or it's like the energy can go out and then we don't have enough left over for us. So if anything's coming up for you around that, please write that down. We're going to work with that in a minute. And just jumping back here to this page where you want to identify where your Venus is and what house she's in. Now, I realize okay, so this is what I get for doing this during Mercury retrograde. I meant to write on here and have on here all the astrology signs so that you could see all the different astrological signs, and I left that off. I'm so sorry. So your Venus, she could be in the same sign as your sun sign. Venus always travels within 2 signs of the sun. Okay, so she's never far from the sun. So I'm just thinking here about any of you who are like brand new to all this. If you don't know the astrological signs, I'm sorry, I forgot. I left that chart off. I'm sorry, I forgot that off here, but I can hopefully answer some questions about your Venus sign if you need it.
You want to do that right now?
Yeah,
if you'd like.
let's do it. Yeah.
Let's see what we have here. Well, and also asked, I'm an Aries. Is that my sun?
Okay. So your Venus could be in a different sign than your sun. Your Venus can be in a different sign than your sun sign.
And then Marissa asked, what does it mean if your sun and Venus are the same sign?
Okay, that's great. So then they support each other. If your sun sign and your Venus sign are in the same astrological sign, they're on the same page. And that means they're kind of like on the same team, like they have the same intention, the same themes, the same energy expression. The sun is often considered a masculine energy and Venus is a feminine energy. So there's that dynamic as well.
Maya Luna says, my Venus is right on the cusp, 29 degrees, 28 Scorpio, also on the cusp of 2nd and 3rd house. Should I look at both signs and both houses?
I would stay in Scorpio. And if it's on the cusp, that could be something to just assess for yourself, to play with. If it feels like it's more at home in the 2nd house or more at home in the 3rd house.
And then a few people asked, what if my sun and Venus signs are both the same sign and in the same house?
Perfect. Great. We're going to work on that. Yeah, that'll actually be a little bit easier. We'll go through that in a minute. But that's very common because of how Venus is always traveling within 2 signs of the sun. So she's always close by to the sun. Okay, so your Venus, especially if you're looking on your chart and you're like, oh, well, where is she? She's going to be close to your sun sign. She could be a few houses before, a few houses after, but she's going to basically be in the same general vicinity as your sun sign.
And then Tim's Zoom account says, how would we nurture Venus? If we know it's in a particular house, how does that help us?
I'm going to talk about that as we go into the next part of this, where we talk about how your Venus sign is going to feel at home.
Okay.
And how to make her come alive.
So if you're going to get to some of these, just let me know. But Veronica said, so how do I use the house to understand my specific Venus signature?
We're going to go into that. We're going to get there. Yeah. Okay.
And
so
then,
I just want to make sure everyone knows, like, you found Venus in your chart. And we're going to do a visualization with the Venus energy here in a minute. And then we're going to talk about the houses.
Okay. And then one person says, I don't understand my prompt. My sun is blank and it is in the blank house. What goes in the first blank?
Your sign. So my sun is in Aquarius. My sun is in Scorpio. and it's in the 3rd house. My sun is in Capricorn and it's in the 7th house. So you'd want to complete the sun sign. Same with your Venus, right? My Venus is in Taurus and it is in the 3rd house. My Venus is in Aquarius and it's in the 9th house. And that's just for you to jot it down so you don't forget.
Okay, and then one last one. Yeah. Tina says both Sun and Venus in Cancer, 9th house, as well as Mercury. Can you speak to that a bit? It's okay if you.
Well, I mean, so that kind of throws me off because I just want to stay focused on Venus right now, not go into general questions just yet. No, so maybe we have time afterwards. We can do that, and then I can talk about more. Yeah, because I don't want to go because everyone's watching, so I don't want to take everyone off on a tangent just yet. All right. So we're staying focused on your Venus and the house that your Venus is in. Okay. And so we've described why Venus is important to understand in your chart, because she's about how you feel invested in yourself, how you value who you are, you value what you can express and share and put out into the world. She is about your personal values, what you find valuable, what matters to you in your life. You know, again, where you want to put your time, energy, resources, attention. That's your Venus. And because we're talking about creativity, it's going into how you invest in your own gifts, how you invest in what you're capable of and what you're good at, and why that's important to honor your natural creative energy. So what we're going to do is another visualization here. And you can certainly visualize a particular chakra. I mean, you could visualize your heart chakra or anything that speaks to you. But what I feel usually comes alive for most people is that you're probably going to see a archetypal energy come alive. This could be a goddess. This could be a feminine energy come to life. This could be an angel or something. But what I would like you to do is just to, again, relax and then close your eyes and just kind of sink into this very trusting and allowing place so that you can allow this Venus archetype to present herself to you, to trust what you're seeing, to trust what this Venus energy looks like, how it's presenting itself to you. Whether that is a feminine energy, some type of form or shape, a color. And she's one of your guides, okay? So just trust whatever you're feeling around this Venus energy that's coming forth and opening up. Don't question it, just allow her to come forward. And as you're feeling into this and receiving her energy, she's going to have something that she wants you to love and accept about yourself. This Venus archetypal energy is inviting you into more of who you are. She is inviting you into more of what you're good at, where you're excellent, where you're worthy, where you're valued, and just trust how you're receiving these messages. And I'm going to give you just a moment here to really feel into this. I'm going to stop talking. And after I let you sink into this more, we're going to write down what you're feeling. So just trusting what this Venus is sharing with you. And then when you're ready, just come back into your conscious awareness, come into this present moment and write down anything that you're seeing, you're feeling, you're sensing, any messages, especially anything in your intuition. And if you'd like, you can also set the intention for this energy to hang around for a bit, for this Venus energy to stay with you for the rest of today or the rest of the week or whatever, if you need more time or if you want more to come in. Okay, so just a few more minutes of writing down anything. Sometimes this Venus, she appears too as even a fairy godmother or a mother or something that's designed to support your inner child or any parts of you that were shut down when you were younger. And she can start to open up more of what you enjoy, more of what you've always liked. And again, that could be something that you see over the next number of days or weeks, that you feel something comes alive in you again that you haven't connected to like in years or decades. You're like, oh my gosh, I felt like this youthful energy come through. So this is where when we tap into these parts of your chart, we're activating them, we're inviting them in, but we're also basically returning you to your own unique energy, like who you've always been in this life, who you are energetically and how that's a part of you that deserves to be seen and deserves to be expressed. Now, this Venus energy, depending on, of course, your chart, it's where it gets different for everybody, but sometimes the energy is soft. She doesn't always yell. Maybe she's not as bold, but sometimes she is bold, especially when she's in like a fire sign or something. So just trust whatever feels correct for you, whatever feels like it's part of your natural energy and expression. And then just like we did for the sun sign, you're going to want to look at the house that Venus is in your chart, and that is how she enjoys life. That is how you look for certain things that bring you, again, joy, harmony, peace, pleasure. Venus in a particular house, again, is a great place to go when you're having a rough day or like work has been really hard and you're like, oh my God, the end of today, I just need to take care of myself. So what does my Venus sign need? What is the right connection or the right fit for my Venus? So that's where you want to go again to the basically the second half of the PDF and look at the houses there and look at how Venus feels at home in a certain house. And it can be the same house as your sun sign. It could be a different house. And this Venus is where, when you are owning your personal value, and that can be different for each of us, but when you're owning what you're good at, what you're talented at, what makes you feel good, where you just want to be who you are, this Venus energy can continue. It's almost like snowballing. It increases and it grows and it gathers more life force. It gathers more strength in who you are. This can also be the energies that have hampered or held back what you thought you were good at. So maybe those were some messages that you've been feeling or sensing. What can also happen with, I know these visualizations that I guided you through are very, they're short, right? Like what, 5 minutes? But when your brain really goes there, when you really got into it, don't be surprised if you start to have messages come up again, over the next 24 hours or in your dream state or through a conversation with a friend, because now you've energetically opened to more of these messages that you're ready to receive. And things can happen fast for people. It's actually really fascinating how they all of a sudden are like, I'm so good at making music, or I'm so good at, at sewing. And then they go back into a hobby. So that's Venus too. Like Venus is about your hobbies, your interests, what you enjoy. Okay, so I can answer some more questions. If we want to go into questions that people have here.
Sure, we have just one, I believe, for Venus. Veronica's asking, is Venus aligned with the heart chakra?
Yeah. So Venus can be with how you receive love. Venus can be connected to your love languages, how you connect, how you interact with people. Venus can definitely be that heart chakra. And how you feel good or how you feel at connecting with people. What's fascinating to you about Venus is that not only can you look at it in terms of your love languages, but also your attachment style. Because there's avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, secure attachment, right? There's different ways that we attach to people. And that can be part of your Venus. That can also be part of your moon sign. But Venus is also how you attach to your own self-confidence and your own self-esteem as well. So yes to the heart chakra.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Gigi is asking, what does it mean to have Venus in the same house as your sun?
So Venus and the sun together are going to bring that double focal point to that particular house. And that house is going to have more importance for you in terms of the energy that house holds, where, again, this is where things are going to feel natural and easier. This is where you're naturally gravitating towards self-expression. This is where you can identify your needs, because keep in mind, both the sun and Venus are personal planets, or your personal energy connected to what you need that feels good and correct for you. So you really want to honor that. Some people have, like 3 or 4 planets all in the same house. So that house becomes more prominent for them in their energy.
And then I got one message, and I'm not sure if it's a question, but Stephanie said, Venus is conjunct Mercury in my first house of Taurus. So I could give you an example of how to nurture on a bad day. I'm not sure.
Yes. So Venus conjunct Mercury, because I know someone else asked, was it Tina? Someone else asked this about her Venus and Mars in Cancer. Venus conjunct Mercury is going to connect to your self-expression. That can be your throat chakra, as well as the third eye chakra. And that conjunction is going to basically be how they work together in harmony. They're going to be on the same page. And Mercury being around what you say, what you speak, how you think. Mercury is going to work with Venus. Venus works with Mercury, and together they're in a place of, let's say it like this, or let's express it like this. So they're actually kind of siblings in the zodiac. And when they're conjunct, they want to work together, and they both have a need to make the other happy. So the conjunction with Mercury can be like, well, I want to say this in a nice way, or I want to, get my point across in a way that's well received. So Mercury brings in that communication desire for Venus, where she wants to say more things.
Veronica's asking, if Venus is in the 9th house, what does that mean as it relates to creativity?
Okay, so Venus in the 9th house is very much an explorer. And this is where, you could want to try different things, sample different things. You want to try this, you want to try that. It means to stay open to what you're enjoying and to not put boundaries on yourself. The 9th house is about adventure and seeking. It's about philosophy, spiritual growth, understanding things. So you could even have a variety of interests in the 9th house. You could be searching for meaning in things. You could be aware of, oh, this is what, is really important to me right now. It's certainly about travel. It can be international travel, long distance travel, understanding other cultures, why they do certain things, like the foods that are made in other countries, or different types of clothing or style, or just wanting to be open and expressive with that ninth house desire, to basically kind of go bigger and see what else you can explore.
Great. And then just one more question on Venus Julia had. With Venus and Taurus, I have read that it means I enjoy luxury and quality over quantity in handmade things. What does the 8th house mean with this combo?
So yeah, Venus is at home in Taurus. It's actually the sign that she does the best at. So there could be things that, yeah, you just naturally enjoy. And in the 8th house is where you want to go deeper. You want to understand why. This could be even about anything related to what other people are doing. The 8th house is psychology, investigation, detective work. So there could be a part of you that wants to go into like a creative expression where you can go deeper, like you can really dive into it and see what's going on here. Looking at things happening across other like energetic expressions. Like, for example, I think of the 8th house as something even like the Akashic records or other energies that you want to understand what's happening here for me. So you could enjoy different things that allow for a deep dive, like a creative energy. I was thinking of like, if like you enjoy writing, that would be like writing mystery novels or investigative things, or like being able to deep dive into something that gives you a depth to exploring your creativity.
We can get to the general questions after if you'd like.
Okay. Let me take a sip of water here. So the reason why I focused on the Sun and Venus for this workshop, because it tunes you in to, as we talked about, your natural life force, who you are, how you're here to be seen, and to not hold back your light, to not hold back what that means. And, we say that or we hear that a lot, right? But then there's things that come up, the judgments, the criticism, the programming, things that we've carried, even across multiple lifetimes. So it's understanding that when you're working at a core level with your sun sign, you can go in and deeply heal anything that has dampened or held back your natural energy, your natural light. And Venus is important because it's where you find joy in the creative process. It's where you feel a sense of, this is what I want to do. This is what I like to do. I remember actually when I was younger, I had all these different like hobbies I would try or things I would do. And some of them I did them out of obligation. And I remember my mom saying to me, well, you should enjoy it. You should look forward to it. And there was something about that really landed, because I thought, well, I know there's a lot I could do or I could try, but am I really looking forward to it? Does my energy rise? Is it part of who I am? And that's what your Venus will tap you into. Where sure, there's things that, you could try for other people, or, you could sign up for something because a friend is doing it. But if it's genuine for you, if it's genuinely what you want to participate in or how you want to share your energy, it'll feel good. And it'll feel like something you look forward to. And that's part of your Venus energy. And I feel too, like both of these are important to look at in terms of how you bring that kind of joy into your everyday life, right? I mean, we have family, we have work, we have stress, we have things going on in our worlds, but let's bring in more of what feels good, of what brings us that sense of, I like this, I want more of this. So this can help you tap into that. Whether or not you start a new hobby or you write the book or you do whatever, it's almost like you deserve to have things in your life that bring you joy and that give you a sense of who you are, that feel good. So I really wanted you to connect with this and understand this, because regardless of what you have going on and the time constraints or financial constraints or all those things that are a part of our lives, you deserve to have things that feel good, that bring you pleasure, that make you happy, even in the smallest possible ways. And so both your sun sign and your Venus sign connect you with that. Oh, my earring just fell off. Okay, I can take questions now if we want to do more questions.
All right. Feel free to post in the chat. If you asked quite a bit ago, it may have gotten lost. So if you'd like to post that in there again, but I will go from. Okay, Marissa's asking, if my sun is on the line between 10 and 11, how do you know which house it is?
If your sun?
If my sun is on the line between 10 and 11, how do you know which house it is?
So this is also where if it's on the cusp between two houses, you would want to look at what feels more natural for you. If the sun in the 10th is about being seen, recognition, being out there, being public, it can certainly be what you enjoy to do, what you enjoy professionally in your career. The 11th house is broader in terms of, you know, what you offer and want to contribute, the bigger picture that you want to be a part of, more social, more friends. The 11th house can certainly be more rebellious. So you would want to look at those two houses and just see what fits. I would, you know, start with the 10th house and then see how that feels compared to the 11th.
Shelley asked, can you explain how transits come into play? Which is more important, natal Venus or transit?
For this, it's natal Venus is important for you. And then the transiting Venus is the Venus energy that changes every day. So you're looking at your natal Venus because that's what's in your birth chart. And then the transiting Venus is the energy that keeps moving. And so, for example, when, let's say your natal Venus is at 9 degrees of Cancer, it takes Venus 18 months to return to that placement. So you have, it's called a Venus return every 18 months. And this is often one day. It's a fast transit. It's usually one day. And it's like someone gives you a gift or something easy happens, or there's an invitation. So the transiting energies are what's always in motion. But it's your natal Venus that we've been talking about in this workshop.
And then I can re-ask that question from earlier, just from Tina. Both Sun and Venus in Cancer, 9th house, as well as Mercury. Can you speak to that a bit?
So in Cancer, in the 9th house, it's such an interesting combination because typically the Sun, Venus, and Mercury in Cancer is intuitive, emotional, sensitive, very aware of how you're feeling, looking for safety, looking for creature comforts. And then in the 9th house, it's about exploring. And I have one of my really good friends has this same energy, and she's married to somebody who's in, I think he's in the Air Force. They've lived all over the world because that 9th house is about exploring, is being out there, foreign travel. It can be higher education, like being a professor, wanting to understand more, wanting more knowledge. And then the Cancer energy is how you bring it home and how it feels for you, how it fits for you. So it's an interesting energy. I can understand why you're asking too, because it doesn't feel like it naturally relates, but it's looking at what makes you feel at home in the world. Is one way to sum it up.
Perfect. And then Phyllis is asking, is Molly able to briefly explain each house a little more, just like she did for the 8th and 9th houses?
So it's all written on your PDF. I can go through it. I mean, yeah, I can do that. That's fine. Let me take a sip here. So we'll talk about it in terms of, right, your Sun or your Mercury or your Venus. And the houses are the environments of life where energies are basically their most natural, okay? And there are 12 houses, and they are a progression of energy around your chart. So for everybody, the first house begins at the rising sign, the first house, and that's your sense of self. That's where you're understanding who you are. It's the energy you exude. It's how you come across. The rising sign is about your first impressions and your aura. The first house is about your physical body and what you understand about who you are, what you like, what you enjoy, all of that. The second house, after you've established that, okay, I have a body and this is who I am, the second house is what you value. And it's about how you establish a life for yourself that is based on what's important to you. The second house is actually like our main primal needs. It's like food, shelter, clothing, water. So it's kind of like the basics of how you establish your life, and it's your value, what you enjoy. It's also about security and your own money. Your money, okay? This will make sense when we talk about the 8th house, but the second house is what you make, what you take in, because it's how you value your energy. Third house is associated with how you speak, read, talk, communicate, how you take in information. Planets in the third house have a desire to communicate or express themselves verbally. This can be a very intellectual and cerebral energy where you're a thinker and you want things to think about. The third house is siblings. It's connected to how you first experience learning, like going to school, and your first experience with peers. That's also the third house. Fourth house, home, your emotional foundation. Planets in the fourth house are often very private. They retreat and retract. The fourth house is where you return to family or your bedroom or your living room. The fourth house is where we go to stabilize our energy. It's connected to your family lineage, your ancestors. It's connected to what you need in a home space. So that fourth house is like your home base energy of where your energy goes at the end of every day to take care of itself. Fifth house is associated with your natural desire to create and procreate, and it's also recreation. So the fifth house, recreation, creation, procreation. It's your kids, the kids that you have. It's how you do things that feel playful and fun and the inner child. It's how you learn to express yourself. The fifth house. Sixth house is your daily routines. I often think of them as your daily devotions, what you need to take care of every day. It's connected to the work you do every day, how you are working for someone or being of service, how you tend to care for things and take care of them responsibly. This includes pets. The sixth house would be everyone you take care of or have under your responsibility. It's connected to also your physical care. So your exercise, your lifestyle, nutrition, everything about how you're maintaining your energy. So houses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are about your self-development. Houses 1 through 6 are about you. Okay, so that's about how you are establishing your sense of self, your values, your communication, your life, everything about you. Then when we move into the 7th house is where you begin to share your energy outside of yourself. Planets in the 7th house tend to seek out others. The 7th house are the planets that want cooperation, partnership, that want to collaborate or work with others. And there could be a desire there to just naturally work with other people. So the 7th house is how your energy interrelates and connects with other people's energies, okay? So the 7th house is more social. It's one-on-one work or one-on-one with clients or at work or at school, whatever. It's how you do one-on-one interactions is the 7th house. 8th house is how you go deeper into knowing what's happening within you psychologically, intimately. The 8th house is where energies merge. And so this is where you have shared resources with other people. This is where, you have roommates and spouses and people you live with, and you share the bills. That's the 8th house. The 8th house is where your energies merge with others, where you get to know who they really are, that they don't just show you right away. Okay, so planets in the 8th house have a desire to go deeper into knowing what's going on with other people as well as within yourself. So there's like this deeper psychological curiosity and deeper energies that want to be explored. This is also where there's transformation that occurs. Some kinds of big events happen. The 8th house can be certainly about like healing trauma, healing abuse. Again, where other people's energies have affected you and require some kind of deeper internal transformation and healing. The 9th house is a bigger truth. It's seeking to understand. Planets in the 9th house are looking at their, why is this way? Why do I think this? Why am I believing this? It takes you into some like the bigger principles in your life, whether those are different education, philosophy, ideology. The 9th house looks for the bigger picture of what you've been learning. So planets in the 9th house are seeking understanding. They're seeking to know, why am I like this? What is this about? What am I learning? So there's more there in the 9th house too, where you want to see different opinions, different beliefs, different cultures. There can be a curiosity with the 9th house. There can be a desire to go out and do the international travel, foreign travel. There's times too when that 9th house, planets in the 9th house can feel alienated. Like, I need to go do something different. I need to do something new. So they leave the status quo to go explore. 10th house. Planets in the 10th house are about mastery. What you're mastering and owning in this lifetime with your own energy, your own authority. We commonly look at this professionally in terms of your career, your job title, how others see you, how they look up to you. That 10th house is usually about recognition and achievement. There can be a desire to be ambitious, a desire to like do things in the world and to be a part of something. The 10th house is showing you also, what you want to do on your own terms. So planets in the 10th house can have that desire to just be in charge. I'm going to be in charge of this. I'm going to run this ship. And that's where they're comfortable. 11th house. Planets in the 11th house can be holding a much bigger viewpoint of what you're here to do in the world. You could feel a certain calling, want to be a part of something bigger than yourself. That 11th house often can have like the desire to interact in a bigger way with people, whether that's through groups or doing something new and different and avant-garde. The 11th house is about, trying to maybe even break the status quo or be a little bit rebellious or revolutionary. The 11th house planets can be ahead of their time. These can be the parts of your energy too that are looking to be more independent and go your own way and do something on your own terms. So the 11th house is also quite independent and forward thinking. And then the 12th house is the end of the full astrological wheel. The 12th house is where you're looking at things that you need to resolve or complete. The 12th house can be where planets want to be left alone. They need time away from other energies to really go into, what does this mean for me? What does this feel like? The 12th house can be very intuitive and creative and empathic because you're sensing many energies and feeling them. The 12th house is where you're learning to surrender, where you're learning to say, I'm not in charge of this. My ego is not in charge. The 12th house, again, it's very private. And it's where you want to be left alone to kind of be in your own world or in your own realms. And it's also where you're allowing things to move through your life without overly attaching to them, because the 12th house can be about release, karma, endings, completions, like things that are meant to be complete, especially across multiple lifetimes. So those are descriptions outside of the creativity stuff that we talked about, but that can help you, pinpoint some things about those planets.
Thank you so much for that breakdown.
Yeah.
I know that was a lot. Are you good to still answer questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we still got time.
Where are we? Okay. Couple people said if Venus is joy, the sun would be what?
The sun would be confidence. The sun would be strength. The sun is your light and your self-identity. I can give you many words.
Mimi said, if your Venus sign is on a line between two signs, not houses, which do you use?
Yeah. So you would want to use the sign that it's in. So for example, if it's at 29 degrees, which I'm guessing maybe you're asking that. If your Venus is at 29 degrees of a particular sign, that's important, because at 29 degrees, you have a level of mastery in that astrological sign. So there's things that could come easier for you that you've done in other incarnations, or things that you're just naturally good at. You could feel too like it's just something that you're very capable of. So that 29th degree is a critical degree. It's a completion and finalization degree. You could also feel, I've seen this, where some people feel like, yeah, I really feel like I mastered that 29th degree of, let's say, Taurus. And then you feel like the next sign being Gemini, you're like, oh, then my Venus feels like it's kind of moved or graduated more into Gemini expressions. So this gets personal around what feels right for you, but typically any planet at 29 degrees, that's a really important degree point to honor.
Great. And oh gosh, where'd I go? Okay. And I apologize if any of this gets repetitive. I'm not okay. The most well-versed, but Vicky says, can you speak more about having your sun in the 10th house?
Yeah. So the sun in the 10th house often wants to be seen and recognized. And this is where you could naturally be a workhorse. You want a job, you want to keep working. Sometimes people with the sun in the 10th house never want to retire. It's like they retire, then they find the next thing, because you have a desire to keep doing. And it depends on the astrological sign. But that 10th house is often comfortable, again, being a master, being an authority figure, being even like a mentor, being someone who's accumulated knowledge and now you want to share it or offer it to others. So the 10th house has something that is helping you feel like satisfied in what you can contribute or guide, like how you could guide others or support others. Maybe you're the manager, you're the boss, but the 10th house is designed to be seen and recognized for what you're capable of.
Mary asks, my Venus rising and moon sign is in Virgo, all in the 12th house. What are your thoughts on this?
You're a triple Virgo in the 12th house. That's so fascinating, because the 12th house is the opposite of Virgo. So you have sun, moon, and rising all in Virgo, right? So then there's a lot in this lifetime that you are working on in the 12th house of being easy on yourself, not expecting yourself to do everything all the time, to watch that inner critic or guilt, like any of those lower Virgo expressions are very important to be aware of. But you're also so good at just helping people, supporting people, finding solutions, seeing things. Even in the 12th house is often intuitively, like you could just know, like you just have a knowingness or a sense of this is what to do or this is the solution. The Virgo energy can be wonderful at not only supporting people, but like being a coach, being supportive, offering wisdom, and being able to guide people. So that's what the energy feels like to me, is like you have some very practical, clear ways to be of service in this lifetime. And I really hope that that Virgo energy has a good outlet for you.
Karen asks, what software to run charts is your favorite?
I use SolarFire. It's a professional astrology software that anybody can buy. It's called SolarFire. It has a lot of capabilities. It has a lot of features. It has so much you can do that's really cool to go into. So I like SolarFire. I've had it for years, so I haven't switched to anything else because I know how it works now. But I find it to be really useful with the transits, solar return charts, astrocartography, all kinds of stuff. It's good.
Thank you. Nikki says, hi, Molly, can you please speak into Venus and Gemini in my 12th house in retrograde? In the past, I have read that this can be a mysterious and or challenging placement. My sun is 11th house Gemini.
Okay, so good question about Venus retrograde. Some of you might have Venus retrograde, and that is when you look at your chart, it would show Venus in a sign, and then it would show a little R next to her. R is in retrograde. So Venus retrograde would mean that there are energies in this lifetime that you're essentially cleaning up from other lifetimes or from other energies. And Venus retrograde can be very much about relationship patterns and looking at what those relationship patterns are. In Gemini, it's making sure that you're really speaking what you need. And the retrograde planets typically have a two-part process where you're like, this is what I need. And then you take time to think it through before you speak it. So it's kind of like a delay. So if you have Venus retrograde, the energy is internalized first before it's shared. So Venus retrograde in Gemini means that you would need time to think things through, to contemplate what you want to say. And in the 12th house, you can hold back what you need to say. Or even in friendships or relationships, it could be harder to express what you need, express what you like. So again, depending on other factors in your chart, you would just want to be very cautious, or not cautious, conscious of this, so that when that Venus retrograde in Gemini has something to say, you can put it out there and do so in a very open, kind, supportive way. The 12th house can certainly be people from other lifetimes where you're finishing up some kind of patterns or habits in relationships. This is also about money, because Venus is money. So there can be issues that you're working through financially in this lifetime where you're owning your value and you're owning your worth. And then there's times you have to speak it. Kind of like when you have a job interview or you're negotiating a salary. When I see planets in the 12th house, they often need support from someone else who can help you, like to feel stronger about what you need to say or communicate. So those are just some general understandings. But again, Venus retrograde can mean that you have relationship habits that you need to be more conscious of, that you got to see it clearly, especially with women, sisters, friends, women at work. Be very aware of that with Venus retrograde. And then in Gemini, it's how you speak and express it. You also might find that it's easier to write something out first and then have a conversation about it. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Thank you. Maya Luna says, my Mars is 21 degrees and Venus is 29 degrees, Scorpio in the second house. I feel like they are always fighting. How can I tell if that's true?
So they're a wide conjunction. They're 8 degrees apart, but they're both in Scorpio. And that Scorpio energy can be very headstrong, right? Very like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. Mars is stronger in Scorpio. Venus is in her detriment. She's weaker in Scorpio. So I feel like it's your Venus fighting your Mars, because the Mars is going to be more dominant And so this Venus, it's kind of like you're gonna have to open up space for her to say what she needs or to express her feelings where she's not happy. And it's kind of like, I would even do some kind of visualization or energy exercise to get them on the same page, because Mars is always gonna be stronger, but that Venus energy, like she can develop resentment. She can get jealous and be upset and not sure what to do with her needs. So I think that Venus in Scorpio is going to need space to be seen, and to be valued, which is the second house. So really look at how are you valuing what that Venus in Scorpio needs, and don't let Mars take over too much.
Olga says, is there a placement for Venus that favors the art of writing?
So she's really good at anything with Mercury, Gemini, third house. And there's even other combinations for establishing a habit or a pattern or something stabilizing.
Perfect.
Is expressing herself.
Stephanie asks how to give the highest expression to a Neptune-Jupiter conjunction at 1 degree in the 8th house of Sagittarius.
So that Neptune-Jupiter conjunction can definitely float away, can definitely go into other places, other realms. In the 8th house, they're going to want to know something, right? It's the house I talked about where you go deeper and you understand more energies. This can be amazing for healing work, because that 8th house desires to transform. Neptune wants to support transmutation, dissolving, letting things go. Jupiter helps in a big way. Like this is a very mystical, intuitive energy, and it's in Sagittarius, you said. So this is where you could have some really beautiful healing gifts that just feel almost like second nature to you. But I would definitely develop anything with your intuition, with energy work, with healing powers, and anything expansive too in Sagittarius where you can do it on your own terms. I mean, this is very mystical energy. It's very mystical. So trust whatever you feel drawn to, because this can open up a lot. This can open up a lot.
Maya Luna asks, what if your sun is in the 12th sign?
In the 12th sign?
Yes.
In Pisces? Is it in the 12th sign or the 12th house?
12th sign, she says.
So that would be the sun in Pisces, which is a very private, intuitive energy. And so you would want to trust the flow of what you're feeling, because Pisces doesn't want to be held back or held down. Pisces is the fish. So it's like, how are you going to grab a fish? A fish wants to flow. A fish wants to go with the energy. So this is trusting what feels energetically good for you, what feels right for you, and opening up to it. The sun in Pisces can also, you want to be able to be adaptable and to change things up. So you could do something for a week and then you want to move into something else for the next week. So it's staying open to what is calling to you, so that Pisces energy can keep evolving and keep moving.
Rhonda asks, how do we use the house info to our signs? We focus on these qualities. How do we use this info for Sun and Venus signs?
So what I discussed, I don't know if you just joined, but the house information is showing you where those planets feel at home and how your creativity can speak to you, how you can be more aware of the messages you're feeling or sensing, how those energies are natural for you. So the Sun and Venus in each house is connected to their home energy, where they naturally want to be seen, where they naturally want to come alive. So you're connecting the dots here in how, like your sun, maybe your sun is in the third house. So that would be the desire to communicate, to teach, to talk, to type something. So that's where your creativity is going to feel most natural for you.
Shelley asks, if you could explain what the midheaven and ascendant do, if they impact creativity.
So there are two different points. Let me, okay. Ascendant, for those, is right here between the 12th house and the first house. The ascendant is how you present your energy. It's your rising sign, which is basically what their first impressions are of you before they know you. So your rising sign is your curb appeal, is how you present yourself. It's your physical energy, your physical appearance. And your rising sign, again, is what they assume or how they see you before they really know you. So it's the front door. It's the curb appeal and the front door. And then they walk into the front door of your energy, and then they walk into, like, because this is all your energy, right? The whole chart is your energy. So the rising sign is your front door, what people assume about you and you assume about them. I mean, think about, you go to a restaurant and you're looking at your server or your bartender or whomever, the maitre d'. You don't know them, but there's energy you're receiving from them. That's the rising sign. And then the midheaven is at the top of the chart, often between the 9th house and the 10th house. The midheaven is the highest point in the chart. So in this chart, it's right here, okay? And it's where your energy is designed to go out into the world. And that's why we associate it with your job, your career, your profession, how you're viewed, how people look up to you, the qualities they see when they look up to you. Because see how it's the highest point in the chart? And so think of it as, okay, the highest point in the chart, this is ground level. And they're standing here looking up at you. And it's how they would describe you. It's how they describe you as a boss, how they describe you as a parent, as a mentor, as someone in charge. It's how people look up to you. And it's also, again, your professional energy that you put out into the world.
Julia is asking, how do our South Node and North Node play into our creativity, if at all?
So your South Node is what's comfortable. Your South Node is the energy that is natural for you. This is where you could have just things from other lifetimes that you were good at, whether that is like the skills you came in with, the karma, the energies that you've naturally known. And so the South Node is something that you can take for granted. It's something that you can just say, oh yeah, I've always been good at that. In fact, when people have like a strong South Node, they can just effortlessly do something and not think twice about it and be really good at it. It's like the person who's an amazing chef and they're like, oh, I never went to school, I'm just a home cook. And they make like the most amazing entrees, right? Like that could be a South Node thing where you're just naturally good at it. Your North Node is what you're learning and developing in this lifetime that is designed to stretch you. It's always opposite of your South Node. It stretches you into new parts of your energy, new skills, new abilities, new lessons, new ways of expressing yourself. So we didn't talk about that in this workshop. So depending on where you're at with your astrology knowledge, this might be over your head. But the South Node is a part of you that feels very familiar. And the North Node is what you're learning and developing in this lifetime that it's like going to a class and you're doing something in a whole new way. Like, I really want to take a stained glass class, like you learn to make something with stained glass. I thought that would always be so cool. And so for me, that'd be very much a North Node thing where I have no idea how to work with those materials. I have no idea what it means to work with stained glass or to like mold things together. So that would be when you're learning new abilities and new skills, is your North Node.
Thank you. Susanna asks if you could please speak a little bit about an intercepted sign.
I would need more information, which one or where in the chart, because intercepted means that it's within a certain house, in a full house. So
she says Pisces in the first, intercepted.
Okay, so what it means when intercepted, so that would probably mean that your rising sign is Aquarius, and then you have all of Pisces, all 30 degrees of Pisces in the first house, and then after that you have Aries. So it means that all of that energy of Pisces is in the first house, which makes it a more prominent house for you because it's a bigger house in your astrology chart. So it's going to have more significance for transiting planets, and it's going to be a part of your chart that's bigger. And then the opposite house, the 7th house, is also big too. So if you have an intercepted sign, that means it's a bigger energy in your chart, a bigger house. That's going to have more of a focus for you in this lifetime.
Okay, Tammy says, can you comment on Sun and Venus in 11th house?
Yeah, people. The 11th house is often about the people we interact with, the networks, the groups we know. And it's also, this is fascinating, it's also the opposite, where you could be like a lone wolf, depending on the sign and depending on the energy. So you can either be very much about groups and networking and like sororities and just all the people you know in the world, and enjoy that, like enjoy working with people, helping people, guiding them, whatever it might be. Sometimes that 11th house could also be the things you want to do on your own terms or in your own way, because it just feels like so uniquely you. It just feels like it's very much, this is my energy, this is what I'm about. So the 11th house is often where we want to take something out into the world. We want to connect, we want to contribute, we want to give back, and we want to do something on a bigger scale.
Vicky's asking, what is a good resource to learn more about past lives from your natal chart?
Okay, I'm thinking of books, and there's oh my God, Patricia. Oh, it's in my office. Mark Jones has a good book. Patricia, I'm forgetting her last name. She's an astrologer who's written an amazing book on past lives. I would just even Google it in Amazon, like astrology past lives, because there's a number of books on this very topic, and there's various things you can look at. Okay, because you can look at your South Node. But thank you, Patricia Walsh. Can't believe I forgot her name. Yeah, excellent book. And so there's just so many different parts of your chart that can help with that information and that story. And there can be multiple stories. You can have it your South Node, your 12th house, your 8th house. There can be your moon. There can be, I mean, there's different things that can come alive. So I typically recommend a book that talks specifically about that topic.
Great. Segue. Kate Stone says, Nikki Anderson wanted me to tell you hello.
Oh, hi, Nikki. Yeah, I see Nikki on YouTube a lot. That's so sweet. Great. Thank you for saying hi. Thank you, Kate. Hi, Kate. Hi, Cassandra. Hi, Karen. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Gigi. I see some of you at the top.
Oh,
hi.
Yeah. The chat's been going off.
Awesome.
Okay, we just have just a few minutes left, 15 minutes, but there's so many questions. I hope I can get to them all. How you feeling, Molly?
I'm okay. I can keep going for a little bit.
If you need to drink some water, please feel free. But Suzanne asks, not quite. She just says, I have Venus, Neptune, Moon conjunct in Scorpio in my 9th. I feel like that is significant.
Venus, Moon, Jupiter?
Venus, Neptune, Moon.
Oh, Venus, Neptune, Moon. Yeah, in Scorpio. Yeah. So there's things in this lifetime that you are absolutely meant to transform at a very deep level of your being. And it could feel like it's really intense at times, right? So you'd really want to have a healthy process for allowing those emotions to move through you. Any strong Scorpio energy or 8th house energy or planets working with Pluto, In fact, I recommend a book by Donna Cunningham, dealing with Pluto problems or working with Pluto problems, only because she goes into some things that you can be aware of within this energy signature. So when you have strong Scorpio, you're going to have to really get clear about your own emotional process and giving yourself what you need to move through things, because you feel it so deeply. Like it's just part of who you are. So you can be very psychic, very intuitive, like very aware of what people are not saying. You can be very aware of people's bullshit. You can be very aware of like multiple things. So you want to have a way to like harness the power of those gifts so that you own them. Mm-hmm.
Great. Gigi asked, can you comment on Venus and Mercury both in the 6th house?
So these are the energies of being very aware of your health, your body, your nutrition, wanting to take care of that on a daily basis, find solutions, find things that are the healthy ways of caring for your energy. This can be someone who's also like, you're just excellent at either like problem solving, solutions, details, data, even going into particulars that are just like, I always think of it as a coach, but even like understanding what needs to be done, what needs to be taken care of. So having good ways of supporting yourself, supporting your energy, making sure that you are not over obligated to people and watching the shoulds of what you should do for others. Because sometimes that 6th house, it can just take on a lot. You're like, I'll take care of that. I'll solve that. I'll handle that. So just make sure that you're monitoring your own needs and aware of what you can do, or rather what you want to do, not what you have to do, to make sure that that 6th house is not overworked or overstressed.
All right. Getting a lot of praise in here. So I love your podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Veronica's asking, how does having 3 cardinal signs, Sun, Cancer, Moon, Cap, Ascendant, Libra, impact creativity and expression?
So cardinal signs want to go on to the next thing. And you can be very much like project oriented, like I'm going to do this today or get this started, and then you move on to the next thing. So you'd have to look at how you've used this energy habitually. Like, are you the starter? Do you ever stick with it? Do you ever finish it? Or do you just want to get it going and then you're like, okay, that was great, move on to the next thing? So this is where you can look at your own energy in hindsight and be like, yeah, how do I handle things? Because with a lot of cardinal energy, so cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. The cardinal signs start the 4 seasons of the calendar year. So they're the initiators. So when you have strong cardinal energy, you can initiate things. You get excited or motivated or whatever. And then you realize, yeah, I don't want to do it anymore. Or you hand it over to somebody else. So the innate energy signature is you start things, but look at what you stick with. And if you don't want to stick with it, if like that's not who you are, then just know that, right, about what you start. And it could be like for certain projects, maybe you come back to it later. Like you start the writing project and then you're like, take a break. And then you come back to it later. So just like understand that's part of who you are. And it's just good to know because creatively, we're all different creatively. Our energy all works differently. So it's like, this is where you can see your own patterns around how you express your creativity over time. Like I'm thinking about like, you like all these projects around your house that are started and nothing gets finished. That's just good to know. Or you're the person who focuses on one thing and you see it through to completion before you start the next thing. So this is also a part of your astrology energy. So good question, really good question.
Catherine says, how about Venus, am I saying that right? Conjunct?
Conjunct, yeah.
Conjunct. How about Venus conjunct Uranus in Cancer in the 12th house?
Okay, so you're the Venus-Uranus conjunction is like electricity, like things can happen quickly, you have inspiration, You've got like this creative spark that comes through. And then you feel it, right? You feel it in a very big way. You feel it as something you have to do. Also, it's very important that you do it your own way, because Uranus does not want to be told what to do. It's like, no, I'll do it on my terms, in my own energy, when I'm ready. It can't be forced. I don't want anyone to like give me the list of what I have to do. So it can be rebellious, where you're like, I'm not going to follow what the teacher says. You're like, I'll just do it my own way. So it's good to know that, because that Venus, she can be very, unpredictable in that way. And then you could also feel things in a powerful way, like, yes, I have to do this and nobody can take it away from me. So there's a strong independence with that Uranus energy.
Rhonda says, what is a good visualization helping Venus when she's conjunct within 2 degrees of the sun, so that the sun isn't burning up Venus?
Oh, okay. So when Venus and the sun are close to each other in the chart, the sun can overpower Venus because the sun is so much bigger. And so she's asking, how can you make sure that Venus can hold her own? Yeah. And not be overtaken. So this is where I see it as making sure that the sun is like shining its light on Venus, but not scorching Venus or burning her up or anything negative, where it's like, it kind of like brings her to life. The warmth of the sun gives her life. And this could be very intentional, where you have to just say, okay, I'm going to focus on the energy of Venus and not the sun, but making sure that that Venus has her own expression, her own beauty, her own joy, like whatever she needs, making sure that there's space for that. And again, seeing the sun as giving life force to Venus and not taking over Venus. So I hope that helps. It's almost like the sun can be the spotlight, can shine a spotlight on Venus.
Thank you. Stephanie is asking, with the North Node conjunction Mars in Aquarius 10th house, what should I do with this conjunction?
North Node conjunct Mars
in Aquarius 10th house.
Okay. So this is really about going your own way in this lifetime, really looking for, it's very independent, it's adventurous, and Mars in Aquarius is like wanting to do things differently on your own terms, in your own way. So really trusting that. Part of the 9th house is trusting what's calling to you, what's calling to your energy to go for it, to strike out, to try it. And it can show you where you're learning to trust more. The Mars conjunction can show up as Mars archetypal energies, like showing you the way, whether that's an invitation or something that you're meant to go towards. Mars also being masculine energy. So it could be too that, you're connecting with different kinds of masculine energy in this lifetime that's opening you up to all kinds of new things. So this is a very exploratory, independent energy. And it's also asking you to really trust what you want to go for.
Marcy, and just a few more here. Marcy says, having Sun, Moon, and Mars on top of each other in 8th Taurus, which planet comes through? I feel like they're all together.
Moon, Mars, Sun.
Correct.
Okay. So you were born at a new moon. And so the moon is hidden. And so the sun is actually the strongest. Mars is not at its strongest in Taurus. So in terms of order, like energetically, it's like Sun, Mars, Moon. Make sure that that moon is not being too suppressed or hidden. This is where that strong Taurus energy will stick with it. Stubborn, perseverance, willful, and really going for what you want, staying the course. You'll finish things through to completion. I also feel like this makes your Venus important, because all 3 of those planets are in Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. So I feel like it's looking at making sure you're not resistant to too many things either, but looking at what that Taurus energy enjoys, because Taurus is about the five senses. It's about, really wanting to enjoy the best of life. So that's a powerful energy.
Someone is asking you to bring your Awakening Astrology retreat to New Mexico.
We'll be in Sedona, kind of closer. Sedona in March.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, we'll just do 2 more questions here.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
I have Mars, Uranus, and Pluto in my first house. What does that mean? And what does it mean if you don't have anything in a house?
Mars, Uranus, and Pluto in the first house. Excuse me, sorry. That's big body energy, body work, creation. The first house is like where you want to create, the desire to get something going. So make sure that you're really working with your physical body, your moving energy. That's a lot. And it could even be that this is where you're ready to undergo some powerful transformations physically in this lifetime. And really you needing to exercise or just be active every day, because it could be like something that you just have to move. You just have to do something to honor that first house. Again, that is your sense of self, your self-awareness, what you like, who you are, and it brings a focal point to those themes throughout your whole life, where there's things that you're always going to be learning and understanding about yourself in a new way. And then you asked about when a house is empty. So it's very common to have empty houses in a chart. In fact, that's usually what happens. We all have houses where there's no planets. And this is common, but you then have transiting energies, like the transiting sun moves around your full astrology chart every year. So the transiting sun brings energy to that empty house. So if you have like an empty second house, the transiting sun will move through that house at least once a year and bring a focal point to the issues of that house. So the transiting planets still bring energy into any empty house.
All right, and then last question, what is mean node and true node?
So the node, these are both the north nodes, and they're calculated differently. The true node is always going to be going direct, retrograde, direct, retrograde, direct, retrograde. And in an ephemeris, which is what we use to look at where the planets are, you'll see, okay, it goes direct for 3 days, retrograde 2 days, direct for 3 days, retrograde. So the true node goes back and forth. The mean node is about the consistency. So the mean node is always going retrograde, and it's calculated as the average speed. So they can be 1, 2, or 3 degrees apart, but the nodes are always, in general, working in a retrograde. But the true node will go direct and retrograde every few days, and the mean node is consistently going retrograde. So it's basically different calculations of the nodes.
Okay, my friends, we're at the hour. Oh, you want to finish?
Great, those were great questions. I wasn't sure what to expect, but those were awesome questions, and I'm so glad you guys were all here and that we could get through so much information together.
Let's all say thank you to Molly for answering all of those questions for us. If you haven't bought her book, Awakening Astrology, and listen to her podcast, Intuitive Astrology, you're getting a lot of love for your YouTube channel too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I never take it for granted. Like, I'm a person, you're a person. I know this online stuff, it's like, yeah, but we're real people. So I really enjoy connecting with you guys in this space. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're getting amazing inspiration from all these workshops. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful that you could make it, and you could be here live. That's the best.